I'm never watching this ever again.
She hasn't hit a single ball yet, and already the stadium in Toronto has nothing left to sell. Not a seat. Not a standing spot. Not a scrap of hope for anyone who waited too long. So how does a 21-year-old who isn't even ranked in the top 20, who has never lifted a Grand Slam trophy, who wasn't even supposed to be the story this summer, manage to do something that Federer couldn't do, that Nadal couldn't do, that Djokovic, 66 Grand Slam titles between the three of them, never once managed in 20 years of trying? Something is happening here that has nothing to do with rankings. And by the time you understand what it is, you won't be able to look away either. Let's call her Alex, because by the end of this story, you won't need a last name to know exactly who she is. Rewind 3 days, Washington, D.C. The sky is doing something biblical. Thunder cracking over the National Bank courts, rain coming down in sheets, play suspended not once but twice. Somewhere under that storm, a young woman from Manila is standing 2 points away from the biggest win of her life, and the weather itself seems to be conspiring to make her wait for it. She has already beaten an Olympic gold medalist this week. She has already beaten a defending champion. She has already beaten a 4-time Grand Slam winner. And now, across the net, stands the world number 3, and the storm just will not let this match end. When play finally resumes, when the ball finally lands where it needs to land, Alex doesn't celebrate like someone who expected this. She freezes for a second, like her body hasn't caught up with what just happened. Later, she'll admit it herself. The nerves hit so hard in that final stretch that everything blurred. And she just tried to funnel all that panic into her feet, into her swing, into one more clean strike of the ball. That's the moment. That's the win. Her first WTA title. Her first WTA 500 trophy. A new career high ranking? The kind of moment an athlete waits an entire career to feel just once. And she gets less than a full day to feel it. Because 30-some hours later, she is expected on a different court, in a different country, against a different opponent, in a tournament that does not care how tired her legs are or how heavy her heart still feels from Sunday night. This is the part nobody tells you about professional sports. The celebration doesn't pause the clock. The plane is already boarding. Toronto is already waiting. And here's where the story should slow down. Should give her room to breathe. Except it doesn't. Because while Alex is somewhere over Lake Ontario trying to convince her body that it isn't exhausted, something extraordinary is happening on the ground below her, and she doesn't even know about it yet. Tournament staff at Sobeys Stadium are staring at a ticketing dashboard that doesn't make sense. It's a Wednesday. It's an opening round. It's the kind of match that, historically, barely fills a third of the seats. No marquee names, no finals drama, just early rounds in the punishing August heat with no roof to hide under. And yet the numbers on that screen are climbing towards something that hasn't happened in this stadium in 20 years. Not for Federer's best tennis. Not for Nadal at his most brutal. Not for Djokovic in his prime. The only name that ever did this before was Serena Williams. And that was during her farewell tour. The tour where she told the world in a magazine interview that she was walking away from the sport forever. The tour where fans didn't just want to watch her play, they wanted to say goodbye. 12,500 people packed in for that farewell. Organizers built an overflow area outside for another 5,000 who couldn't get through the doors. It was a eulogy disguised as a tennis match. So when the same number appears on the board 4 years later, for a woman who isn't retiring, who isn't a legend yet, who is currently ranked outside the top 20, the staff don't quite know what to call what they're looking at. Because this isn't goodbye. This is something being born. Let's sit with that contrast for a second, because it matters. Serena's sellout was grief wearing the shape of celebration. A city showing up because they were about to lose someone forever. Alex's sellout is the opposite. Nobody in that crowd thinks they're watching a farewell. They think they're watching a beginning. And that distinction should terrify every other player left in that draw. Because a crowd that believes it's witnessing the start of a legend behaves very differently than a crowd that's simply being polite. It gets louder. It gets hungrier. It refuses to let its favorite lose. So who is filling that stadium? Follow the trail and it doesn't lead where you'd expect. it doesn't lead to tennis diehards who followed the sport for decades. It leads to Toronto's Filipino community, 250,000 people strong in the Greater Toronto Area alone, one of the largest concentrations of the diaspora anywhere outside the Philippines. And once you understand what this community has been doing all year, every single impossible sellout stops being a mystery and starts being inevitable. Rewind again, all the way back to January, Melbourne, the Australian Open. Tournament organizers made a decision that, in hindsight, looks almost comically wrong. They placed Alex's first-round match on Court 6, a small outside court, capacity barely over 1,000. What happened next wasn't a crowd. It was a flood. Lines stretched for hundreds of yards through the grounds of Melbourne Park, fans standing for hours just to catch a glimpse of a screen showing the match, security eventually forced to turn people away entirely. Even Martina Navratilova, a legend who has seen every kind of tennis fandom there is, publicly called out the organizers, saying they needed to understand exactly where these players come from and who their real fan base is. And here's the detail that should have been the warning shot for every tournament after Melbourne. Alex's pre-tournament press conference pulled in over 170,000 live viewers online. Compare that to Carlos Alcaraz. Compare that to Coco Gauff. Compare that to Aryna Sabalenka. All of them combined didn't touch what one 20-year-old ranked outside the top 50 pulled in before she'd played a single match that tournament. That was the first tremor. Nobody outside the sport felt it yet. Then Dubai happened. Jessica Pegula, a top 10 player, later said she could hear Alex's fans chanting from inside her own hotel room, blocks away from the stadium. Then Wimbledon happened, the most tradition-bound tournament on the calendar, a place where crowds are famously reserved, famously quiet, famously polite. And even there, Alex looked up mid-match to find a sea of Philippine flags where she expected polite English applause. Then Washington happened, the same tournament where she'd just won her first title in that rain-soaked final, and the chairman there admitted something staggering afterward, that 80%, maybe more, of every single ticket inquiry his office received was people asking specifically about her matches. Not the defending champion, not the top seed, her. Every single stop, the pattern repeats and intensifies. Australia, Dubai, Wimbledon, Washington, now Toronto. And each time, tournament organizers are caught flat-footed, scrambling to understand a phenomenon that traditional scouting reports never saw coming. Because traditional scouting reports measure forehands and rankings, they don't measure what happens when a diaspora that has spent decades feeling scattered and unseen suddenly finds one person who carries their flag onto the biggest stages in the world and refuses to put it down. Here's a moment that explains more about this phenomenon than any statistic could. After winning in Washington, a reporter asked Alex what it felt like to have become this popular, this fast, across the entire globe. She didn't talk about her forehand. She didn't talk about her ranking. She paused, and then she said something that reframed the entire question. That maybe the real question wasn't about her at all, but about what it means right now to be Filipino. Then she said 2 words in Tagalog that have started showing up on flags, on signs, on social media captions across a dozen countries. Words of gratitude, aimed not at herself, but at the very people who keep showing up for her. That single answer is why nurses in Birmingham are booking flights. Why engineers in Berlin are staying up until 3 a.m. to stream her matches. Why students in Melbourne and families in Toronto keep finding a way into stadiums that logically should not have room for them. She turned her own spotlight around and pointed it at millions of people who had never had one pointed at them before. And people do not forget when you do that. They show up. Every time. Now bring the story back to Wednesday night. Toronto, Sobeys Stadium, sold out. Because a sold-out crowd isn't just a number. It's pressure with a heartbeat, and Alex is about to walk into it carrying more than just fatigue from Washington. She's about to walk into it carrying a ghost. Her opponent is Alicia Parks, American, 6'1", a serve that once touched 129 miles per hour, tying a mark Venus Williams set almost 2 decades ago. And this isn't a stranger. 7 months ago, at that same Australian Open where Alex's fans flooded Court 6, Parks beat her in the first round. Not a close match either. Alex got bageled in the first set, 6-love, a scoreline that would break plenty of careers right there in January. She clawed the second set back, pushed the third to the edge, and still walked off the court a loser, watching Parks celebrate the kind of win Alex herself now desperately wants revenge for. 7 months, Lee wants revenge for. 7 months. That's how long this has been sitting with her. 7 months of climbing from outside the top 50 into the top 20. 7 months of beating Olympic champions and Grand Slam winners and world number 3s. 7 months of proving over and over in city after city that Melbourne wasn't the ceiling, it was the floor. And now the draw, almost cruelly, has handed her the one player who's already seen her break. Parks has improved too, climbed from outside the top 90 into the 70s. But the gap between them has stretched, and everyone watching knows exactly who's done the growing. Here's the tension nobody's talking about yet. This match is barely even the hard part. Because if Alex gets through Parks, the road on the other side of that draw turns genuinely brutal. The reigning Wimbledon champion lurking 2 rounds away, a player who has already beaten her twice this year, including a loss at Indian Wells that still stings. A former top 12 contender, a dangerous qualifier who's beaten bigger names before. This isn't a victory lap. This is a gauntlet, and it starts in front of 12,500 screaming fans who all believe, with absolute certainty, that she cannot lose. Now stack the physical reality on top of the emotional one, because this is where the story stops being inspiring and starts being almost unbelievable. 5 matches in 5 days in Washington. A final that stretched across 2 separate days because of the storm. A body pushed to its absolute limit against the toughest stretch of opponents she's ever faced. Then barely a day, barely 24 hours to fly, to recover, to mentally reset, to face a player who's beaten her before, in a stadium that is louder and more expectant than anything she experienced in DC. Any rational assessment says she should be running on fumes. And yet here's the twist that should stop you in your tracks. Alex has said, out loud, on record, that she felt like she ended the Washington tournament in better physical shape than she started it. That every single match sharpened her instead of wearing her down. Think about how strange that sentence actually is. Most athletes break down under that kind of workload. She's telling you the opposite happened. Whether that's true resilience or just adrenaline talking, Toronto is about to find out in real time, live, in front of a crowd that isn't going anywhere. And this is the part where the story stops being about one match entirely, because Toronto isn't the finish line. It's a single stepping stone on a schedule that gives her almost no room to exhale. After this, it's straight into Cincinnati, another top-tier event, barely a week later. After that, the US Open, the biggest stage in American tennis, the tournament where careers get made or quietly buried under the weight of expectation. There is no off-season coming to save her. There is no gentle stretch of easier opponents to recover against. The tour does not pause for storylines, no matter how good the storyline is. So here's where this all lands. A 21-year-old outside the top 20 just did something Serena Williams needed a farewell tour and 23 Grand Slam titles to do. And she did it with an opening round match. On a Wednesday, against an opponent most casual fans have never heard of. She did it not because people are saying goodbye to her, but because an entire diaspora has decided she is impossible to miss. Every stadium she walks into now writes a new chapter in a story that started on a tiny outside court in Melbourne, with a security line stretching into the distance. Every match adds pressure. Every win adds a bigger crowd. And every bigger crowd adds a level of expectation that would crush most 21-year-olds before they ever got the racket out of the bag. But here's the question this story actually leaves you with. The one that matters more than any scoreline from Toronto. What happens when the pressure stops being something she survives and starts being something she needs? Because if the last 7 months are any indication, Alex doesn't wilt under the weight of a sold-out stadium chanting her name. She seems to feed on it. And if that's true, if this really is only the beginning, the way it looked in Melbourne, the way it sounded in Dubai, the way it echoed through Wimbledon and Washington, then Toronto isn't the peak of this story at all. It's just the loudest chapter so far, in a book that is nowhere close to finished. Somewhere out there in a stadium in Canada, thousands of people are about to find that out with her. Live together, flags in the air, waiting to see if the girl from Manila can turn 7 months of hurt into one more unforgettable night. And somewhere else, in living rooms and hotel rooms and stadium overflow lines across a dozen countries, millions more are about to watch it happen with them.